this is a good time for it's a good time in wrestling right now. I wanted to talk to you about like why is WWE seem to be like they're hot right now after literal years of dumpster fire. They finally have like figured it out and they're like on a big upswing, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. It seems to just be getting better and better every week. And then on the flip side, it seems like AEW can't do anything or get any traction. And it feels like we've already talked about this a few weeks ago when we did the AEW versus NXT show for the Title Tuesday show. But I just this just feels like it feels a little redundant that we're talking about it, but it feels important because what WWE has done in the last like calendar year and a half, like it doesn't it just feels like they finally figured it out. I don't know what it took. I guess did it take, is it a difference of the leadership with Vince leaving and Triple H fully taking the reins, or is it creative decisions that have been because of the change, or is it the fact that they literally just figured it out and they finally turned Reigns heel, or is it all three of them together?
Well, I think it's all three. I mean, having Triple H be the head guy with the creative is a big deal. He was running NXT when NXT was great. A couple of years ago when they were just running excellent shows week in and week out. All the talent that you're seeing right now on the main roster are his people. They're people that he brought into NXT or he wanted to bring into WWE that they developed, and they're now in those positions where they can be successful. I mean, you just um, take a look at the trajectory just of LA Knight. People, hey, it's a Triple H guy. I mean, that's a guy that Triple H has wanted to bring in for a long time. He finally got him to come in, and they're pushing him. And Vince wanted to destroy that guy. I mean, there's countless of those. There's countless examples of those. I mean, Becky Lynch is arguably the number one women's wrestler ever, and Vince had her as a comedy goofball for a couple of years after she went away when she had the kid. So I mean, it's just a lot of that. There's a lot of people like that they just got trapped with Vince, and Vince just didn't see a vision for them. And then now Triple H is in charge, and they're kind of repackaging people a little bit, and they're covering up some of the mistakes that were made. I mean, Nakamura has proven that he's still a world-class talent, man. And Vince saw nothing in that guy, man, for a long time. I mean, you saw those matches he had with Rollins. He's fantastic. I mean, they made Rollins into a little bit of a geek too there for a bit. And he still dresses like a moron, but he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And
Yeah.
finally he's getting his shine. I mean, it's not a secret. I mean, when you've got Tyler Black was Triple H's guy. He's always been Triple H's guy, even from the ROH days. He was the guy Triple H really wanted to bring in. They brought him in. He had an unbelievable career with Vince at the helm, but it kind of really trailed off there for a while. And then they bring back the big gold belt, which is what it is.
Mhm.
And Triple H puts the big gold belt on his guy. That's just an example. I mean, that's what it is, man. I mean, you've got a different guy in charge who is a new coach or a new GM or however you want to say it, that's bringing in his own players, and his players are starting to shine. And now I'm not going to say it's perfect, because there's still some examples in there where people have kind of slipped away a little bit. Like we haven't seen oh God, what's the girl's name from Vegas? The one that was Zoe Stark. We haven't seen her in a couple of weeks. I don't know. Maybe she's injured. I don't know. Maybe she's injured. But I think we that's kind of trailed off a little bit with her. But there's still, I don't know why they haven't pulled the trigger yet on the Street Profits thing with splitting them up and making Ford a single star. I'm not sure why they haven't done that yet. But there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time for that. But there's you. It really feels to me like we're potentially in a position right now where the WWE is going to be better than it's ever been in our lifetime. Top to bottom. I'm talking top to bottom, all the way from the bloodline storyline at the very top, all the way down to some of the stuff in NXT, all the way top to bottom. We're in a position right now where this could really be what it always should have been, which is really good storytelling, great matches. That's been the biggest gap that they've had for 20 years, maybe even more than that, was just the fact that you can get better match quality outside the WWE.
Mhm.
but Triple H is a match guy, and it's like we're starting to see matches on Raw that are like, hey man, that was for that every single week we're saying it now. It's like, hey, for that being a Raw match, that match was really good. Like, because we're comparing everything to what happened in over the last 20 years, right? Where matches were on TV, they didn't really matter at all, right? They were just out there to do their thing, 5 minute matches, whatever. But now we're seeing really good stuff every week on Raw and on SmackDown too, man. And I mean, hats off to them. I really hope they can keep it going because this is a really exciting time to be a WWE fan.
Yeah, it's really funny that you mentioned that Tyler Black or Seth Rollins is a Triple H guy because literally they crowned him the first NXT champion at that first NXT like pay-per-view. So
I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you're right.
yeah, they literally came out and crowned him like that really speaks volumes. And then fast forward that he was the guy that cashed in at the end of that WrestleMania 31, and then he had the WrestleMania match with Triple H. I'm pretty sure he has Triple H's last WrestleMania, or no, he doesn't have Triple H's last WrestleMania match, but like a big one. I mean, any WrestleMania match with Triple H is a big one, especially for a guy that he got hurt and he was like kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit there for a lot of years. And um now that he's like the guy, like yeah, like I love that he wears the ridiculous outfits. It's incredible. I love it. But it's nice that like another guy, Shinsuke Nakamura, he was like the king of the mountain in NXT, and he was the guy that everybody wanted to watch for that. And he really got lost in the shuffle whenever Vince was there too. Like Vince,
Look, it goes even down from that because I mean, this might be the best stuff Drew McIntyre's ever done in his career, and he's not even a champ. So
right?
this might be some of the best stuff he's ever done, if not the best. I love what they're doing with that guy, man. He's Batman. They've made that guy Batman, and it's really great. But I mean, look at the praise that we're getting from like Ivar, the guy from War Raiders. I mean,
Yeah.
he got all that praise for being in those singles matches. I mean, they were dead in the freaking water, man. They were doing matches with Street Profits, and I think it was at WrestleMania where they were throwing bowling balls at each other in the street or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like they you know what? Vince saw two guys that he thought were out of shape. He
Mhm.
couldn't do anything. He tuned them out, man. He tuned those guys right out, man. But like, thankfully, they're getting a little bit of a push right now, and hopefully they'll end up being something. Because look, are they my favorite tag team in the world in 2023? No, they're not. Were they awesome 3 years ago? Yeah, they were great 3 years ago, right? But I mean, they've got a lot to offer, man, and they look so different than everybody else. That it's almost like Vince kind of lost the plot on that about the uniqueness of people, right? Because I mean, we're going to get into, I don't even know if I want to say this right now, but we're going to get into Mystico, today, whenever we get into these next 10 with the top 100 and how that was a unique guy that came in. It was a major star
Mhm.
that they took everything from that guy, man. And the guy just went into the toilet mentally. And it's of course he did. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's the thing. But like, there's so many of those people that have come through the WWE, which is why guys like the Young Bucks and Omega and stuff like that shied away from going there because they didn't want to get everything taken from them, and they wanted to be unique and they wanted to do their thing. And hats off to them for that, man. Hats off to them for wanting to do their own thing and not go somewhere where they're going to get pigeonholed.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and then back to your Street Profits thing. I'm pretty sure they got a new theme song with Bobby Lashley. So they've been
Yeah.
Lashley for the last couple of weeks. I'm a little behind. I haven't got a chance to watch this week's SmackDown, and I'm really excited for Raw tonight. I think that there's a pretty good Raw match. I can't remember what I saw, but um, yeah, I mean, like just you're 100% right. This is everything that we've wanted to see for a number of years and what it always should have been in terms of WWE and in the main roster. Like the NXT is supposed to be the feeder system. And for years, NXT was like the shining star of WWE. And then as soon as they got called up to the main roster, it was nothing. And now, I mean, now it's like now these people are getting showcased on the main roster. And then you can go back to NXT where they're still doing that. And it seems like NXT, it's not the level that it was whenever Triple H was running it, but Shawn Michaels is trying to make it just as good.
It's
And
a little different. It's a little different. It's good in certain ways. It's definitely different than what it was then. Because back then it was a lot darker and a lot more serious, and right now it's a lot more colorful, a little more user friendly, I think, to people who just stumble across it on TV.
Right. And speaking of color and people stumbling across it, they've beat AEW 3 of the last 4 weeks in the ratings. Like NXT was not doing that for a long time. Like AEW dominated the space, and yeah, they did go head to head a couple weeks back, and yes, NXT did load the show with a ton of talent, but AEW,
Tony would have done the same thing, man. If Tony Khan would have had if Tony Khan had the Undertaker and he had freaking Dusty Rhodes or whoever the hell it is, I mean, he would have put all those people on those shows.
right. And it hasn't worked, and they it seems like they can't catch their footing. It seems like everything that they do, like, yeah, they're doing this. The sad part is that the only thing that they've done right over all of these years is that they've booked the way that they've booked Sting as a legend is the best thing that they've consistently done over time. And then they bring out Ric Flair last week, and I don't know. I don't even know if that even helps. It's cool that Rick is on like TBS again after all these years. Like that's cool. I just and the fact that like Andrade's there, but like I don't know. I never see Andrade anymore. At least I never see him on Dynamite. I feel like I never see him on
He's
Dynamite.
on he's on Collision.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I there's the things that AEW are doing, like the after all of that stuff that happened with Punk and just everything, like it's just left a sour taste in my mouth. And then everything with like Tony just bitching all the time about WWE and what they do to him, and he's like trying to, in a way, he's trying to pull the old Vince card that Vince pulled on Bischoff when Bischoff was pulling all of these stunts on Vince in the late 90s whenever Nitro started. Is like, well, they've had all these years head start. They got all these stars. They got all this money and influence and all that. And I'm just a billionaire's son, and I'm doing an upstart company. And it's like, I don't know. It just doesn't. I don't know. I from where AEW was when we first started like watching, and where this podcast started a year ago, like it's really taken a huge hit, and I don't know if it's I 100% want to blame it on Tony. I also want to blame it on the booking, and it's just they've gone away from. I don't know. Tony has said a lot. Tony, these are Tony's words. These aren't mine, but he's literally said, "I do not care about the weekly shows anymore because you all will buy the pay-per-views and we will always deliver on pay-per-view." Like I don't. I like to follow this. I like personally for me. I love to follow the stories. Like I love to go on Peacock and I love to start a Raw and I love to watch it till, like the end of the year. I love doing that. I do that all the time. And like Dynamite was like the show I watched every single week. I used to make Allison sit with me while I watch Dynamite every Wednesday night. And I can't tell you the last time I sat down and watched an entire Dynamite from start to finish. I literally can't remember it. Like it's been months. And it's frustrating. It just feels like they don't. And now I know that on the flip side of things that like Mongoose will come in here and tell you that everything is great about AEW. Everything that they do is fantastic. And yeah, they have some hiccups here and there, but pretty much like they have awesome matches. And I'm sure that they do, but like I just can't get into it anymore. I don't want to be an AEW hater, but because I was on the train from the beginning, but they threw me off the train and I've been on WWE for a while now, and it feels like more and more people are doing
My biggest gripe with AEW, I mean, outside of the fact that I feel like the owner and the CEO or GM or whatever the hell his title is a little kid. I mean, outside of that, the women's division for me is a big deal. I mean, I'm a big women's wrestling fan. I work with student athletes every day. You know that, man. And it's just like women's athletics to me is a big deal. It's about access, it's about opportunity, it's about equal opportunity. And they should have equal opportunity as the WNBA should, as women's soccer, as women's wrestling. I mean, you want to give the next generation of students and the next generation of kids people to look up to, right? And it's a constantly evolving thing where you ramp it up into equality, right, over the course of time, right? Because if you don't flip a switch and make someone just love the WNBA, right, or love college softball, right? You've got to kind of like integrate them slowly over time to get them to understand how important this stuff is, right? And how it is really good. And if you're looking at the WNBA versus the NBA, right? Of course, your natural instinct is going to say that the NBA is way better, than the WNBA. But if you look at the WNBA in a vacuum about what it is itself, and again, like going back to the Mystico thing, what we're going to talk about, like the vacuum, right? CMLL in the vacuum is so awesome and so special to watch, dude. And it's the same thing as it is kind of with women's sports too. Like you watch those Stardom shows and they are freaking lights out, dude. There are women on those shows that are just world class wrestlers, men or women, dude. And that's what it is. So when I see this, and I'm just going to call it what it is, man. It's been garbage. It has been a garbage women's division for a while now in AEW. And I mean, that I don't want to call anybody out just for it being their own fault, because it's not any one person's fault. But that match from Dynamite with Ruby Soho and Sheeta was one of the worst matches I've ever seen on TV. It was, I mean, dude, I don't know what the hell is going on with some of these people. That they just don't want to work anymore, or they just don't give a shit, or what it is. But you have to give an effort when you're out there, and you have to book effort. You've got to put people out there that are gonna want to be out there, man. And you can't. You and I have talked about this a lot over the course of time, and I know I've talked to Mongoose for 100 years about this. Don't offer it unless you're going to try to be the best at it, right? So don't offer a women's division unless you're going to try to have the best women's division in the world, right? Don't offer a tag team division unless you're going to put a full effort into that tag team division. And I fully believe that, man. And that maybe that's a personal philosophy of mine, where I think don't do anything unless you're going to put effort in, man. And I really believe that. Like, you should want to be great at the things that you put effort into. And if you're going to offer 2 women's belts, and you're not going to try to bring in people that are the best in the world at what they do, and you're just going to throw people out there in bullshit matches and not care about it, and not care about the booking. And I mean, they're getting criticized for it, man. And it's justified. There's shows where they have one women's match, or they have no women's matches, or they have one women's match on a pay-per-view. Like, when you do that, you're training your audience to think this is the piss break match, where you got to go get another Mountain Dew, or go get a bathroom, go get a hot dog, whatever you want to do during this match, because it doesn't matter. You've got to showcase it, and you've got to try. And that is where I have such a big problem with AEW, because they just throw everything at the wall, dude. Everything just gets thrown at the wall. Sometimes it sticks, and sometimes it's really great. The matches are usually really good. Almost every match is really good. It doesn't matter who it is, right? But when there's so much stuff just thrown at the side of the wall, hardly anything is sticking right now, man. And they've just lost their way, is what it feels like. And it just feels like things are not going really anywhere. And I struggle to follow this, even though I watch their shows every week. I watch the pay-per-views. I struggle to follow this stuff, man. And I don't know what it is, other than them just getting some kind of a reboot. And I thought they did that. I thought they already did that, with the reboot a couple pay-per-views ago, where they flipped a couple belts, and it was like, okay, here we go. We're going to start over and do different things. But dude, this is the worst it's been, for sure. In the 44 or 5 years that they've been around, this is the worst.
And it feels like they have showcased the women, and it's just the fact that when they do showcase the women, it ends up being an absolute train wreck. Like, I know that they put on some of those matches like early in the early years, and like that one with Nyla Rose and Statlander at that Revolution, that was awful. And it feels like they just like
Statlander isn't great, dude. She's pretty good. She's really strong. She's got a great look. People like her, but she's not great. She's just okay. And maybe that's part of it too, is like people are getting exposed a little bit, because here's the biggest difference between when you watch NXT's women's division, who are all green as hell. We all know that. Mm-hmm. Almost all those girls are very green, right? The speed of those women versus the AEW women's division, dude, it's like night and day. It is so much closer to Stardom than what it is closer to anything else. Like that, the NXT women's division, when they are in the ring, there's movement and they're going fast and they're doing moves and it's exciting. That's what people want to see nowadays. Now I heard Kevin Nash say something a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, about him talking to Sean, about him talking to Michaels, and Nash even said, "Is like, dude, because Nash doesn't watch it every week. I'm sure he doesn't watch it, but he said, hey man, that people are going way too fast. They got to slow it down in the ring." And Michaels told him, "Is like, dude, if they go in there right now and try to do a test of strength, everybody in that building is going to stand up and walk out." Because
Not,
that's what we're accustomed to, right? We're
yeah,
kind of, and look, that isn't that the Young Bucks style? Like that's what they got. Like the Young Bucks are the ones that did that. Like they're the ones that go 100 miles an hour every match, and
yeah,
people were so pissed off at them for that. Well, now those are the guys that have kind of influenced this whole women's division in another company, right? It's kind of what it is. So I mean that's I think a really important thing to say is that just like the difference in just speed, and it's not even match quality, because the wrestling in the AEW women's division at the top is obviously better than it is at the top of the NXT women's division, right? The technical wrestling is better. But when you're talking about exciting matches and seeing people flying around and doing stuff and getting excited about characters, excited about, just technique and different styles and things like that. I mean, dude, it's not even close between the two right now.
yeah. That's funny that you say that about like it. What bothers me is that like a lot of those people that were in WWE and working with the women and that women's division, they're at AEW, and I don't understand where's the disconnect there. Is it just because WWE got rid of everybody that didn't matter, and like did they make the right calls, and like because you feel like it would translate over in that AEW would want to do the same things that NXT is doing, and they just don't, and it's super frustrating.
Well, look, man, the two women that were in that women's breakout tournament, the finalists were people that were very predictable. It was Kalani Jordan and Lola Vice. So Kalani Jordan was doing that program with Dana Brooke where they were going to split them up and she was going to get the big win over Dana Brooke, right? Well, then Dana got released, right? So, but Kalani Jordan has only been wrestling for probably a year. I don't know how long Lola Vice has been there in the performance center, but she's an MMA. Came from MMA. And I'm telling you right now, man, the two of them right now being green are better than everybody in AEW, all the women, minus the very top. What are you talking about? Like Britt Baker, Tony Storm, maybe Hayter is probably in that group too. But those two women from NXT who were green are, I'm telling you, man. Maybe this will change in a couple of weeks when I see more people's matches and they step up. But I would take Kalani Jordan and I would take Lola Vice right now over everybody else that's in that division, man. Other than Britt Baker and Hayter and probably Tony Storm. That is very telling. That is very telling. When you got people that don't have that many matches under their belt and they're in there and they're that good and that quick already. Dude, I mean, come on. Look at Tiffany Stratton. I mean, she's only been there for how long? She had two incredible matches with Becky Lynch. Now, look, Becky's going to make everybody look good. We all know that. But, I mean, the fact that she's made a star out of Tiffany Stratton. If Tiffany Stratton showed up right now on the main roster, she'd be one of the biggest women in the company.
Oh,
And that's the truth. But you're playing silly games over there with Julia Hart. Bless her heart, no pun intended. I mean, she's gotten way better. She has gotten way better.
yeah.
But Julia Hart in NXT, she's not going to make it. She's not going to cut it. I love Willow Nightingale. There would always be a place for Willow Nightingale anywhere where I'd ever book, ever, forever. There'll always be a place for her. But you're playing silly games with Sky Blue. It's like, dude, come on, man. There's people out there that you've got to go get. You've got to go find people and bring in women that want to be showcased. Because right now they're just not doing it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's really sad that this is kind of like it's like the roles have completely flipped on us. But yeah, so